start the video. Ethan, get your face out of here. And the sentiment form will be at the end of this meeting as well. It won't be that long as last time, so we can move on now. Yeah. Okay, so once again, disclaimer. I have to do this every single meeting because, yeah, this is true. Everything here is just for informational purposes, not like intended to be investment advice. Yeah, so just be smart with your money here. There you go. Okay, so we're gonna start with an icebreaker, and this icebreaker is called two truths and one lie. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know what this is. So essentially, you'll come up with 3 statements. 2 of them will be truths, 1 of them will be lies, and everyone will try to guess which one is the lie. So I'll start off, and then I'll probably pick a couple volunteers if anyone wants to. And yeah, so I have to think about this real quick. So my first statement is that my first statement was that I was born in China and not in America. The first one. Second one is that I play golf. There you go. Third one is I have not tried Chipotle. So which one was the lie? 1, 2, or 3? I have never tried Chipotle.
Exactly.
1, 2, 3. Okay, so I hear a couple of 3s.
It's the
Yeah.
Would you consider you Chinese?
I'm just getting like food things. 1, 3. Okay, yeah. Hold up the number. 1, 2, or 3. Okay, a lot of 3s. 1. Okay, yeah. So it was 3. So I have tried Chipotle, and I was actually born in China. So yeah. Yeah, okay. Is there any volunteers that would like to do this? Or I'll just...
I feel like if I say it, it'll be
Okay, that's fine. Hey, let's pick on Fuad. He just came. Alright, Fuad. So, we're doing our icebreaker right now. Yeah. Let's do it. Just come up with it. It's fine. So, 2 truths, 1 lie. Go.
the first sentence.
Alright, I'm 5'4". I'm 5'3". I'm 5'5".
Okay.
5'3".
Wait, it's 2 truths and 1 lie, Fuad. Not 2 lies. Run it back.
I'm 5'4". I'm 5'3". And I've been in a plane before.
You've been in a
Let me
plane?
stand right next to you. You say you're
No, you can't do that.
What you say when you're 5'4" and what?
5'4", 5'3". Been in a plane before.
5'4". I'm 5'2", so
Okay.
you're like you're not 5'4". You're like 5.
Okay, say the choices loudly again, Fuad.
Okay. I'm 5'3".
Uh-huh.
I'm 5'4", and I've been in a plane before.
Okay, so
Is that right?
hold up the number that you think is the lie. 1, 2, or 3. Okay, a lot of 2s, a couple 1s. Alright, what was it, Fuad?
It was 2.
It was 2, okay, nice.
It's okay.
It's okay, Fuad. Thank you for participating after doing all this fun. Okay, does anyone want to volunteer? Anyone?
You want to actually see it?
No, I'm
Sadaj? Okay, Sadaj, let's go. Stand up, Sadaj.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I know. Short lives matter.
But they have short lives.
Okay.
Are you really 5'2"?
Yeah, I'm really 5'2", just was short.
5'7",
Because
okay.
I'm short.
What's the third one? Come on.
I've been to India before.
You've been in, okay.
Wait, if you're 5'2", then what am
Okay. Say the 3 choices again, Sadaj. Loudly, please, so they can hear.
If you're 5'2".
I think you're 5'2".
So I lied on all of them.
5'7".
I've been to India.
Okay, so 1, 2, or 3.
3.
One.
Okay, so the lie was 3. Alright, cool. Nice. Anyone else? Austin? Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Austin.
Alright.
Loudly, please.
Never had Chipotle.
Okay.
Never had Starbucks.
Never had Starbucks. Okay.
Never had Papa John's.
Wow.
What the? Do you even?
I'm the fact that 2 of them are lies.
Okay. Point the number
What?
that you think is a lie. 1, 2, or 3.
I just said
Chipotle.
It's really.
I'm gonna go with
Okay. Couple 3, couple 1.
Starbucks like the lie.
Alright, what was the last one? What was the lie?
Oh, I never tried Chipotle.
Okay. You need to try, bro. It's amazing. Alright, cool. So that's the end of our icebreaker. Thank you everyone for participating. And yeah, let's move on to the main part. And I'm just going to do this every meeting just because. So if you could scan the QR code or go to that link, just check the spreadsheet to see if the attendance is all correct. Our secretary Charlie is not here today, but if you guys do see mistakes, please let me know right now, and I will let them know, and we will get that fixed as soon as possible. And if your name was not up there, it's most likely because you didn't fill out the Google form, which is why the sign-in form is so important, because that way we know everyone's here. So yeah, just check that real quick. It'll take like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. I know the Wi-Fi is not really the greatest, but it'll work. So just check that. Once again, if there's any issues, just let me know right now.
I just closed. Okay, hold on. What's your last name?
You're kidding me?
What's your last name? What's your first name?
Wow.
We're gonna find it. Like, in a second.
My name is literally.
No, it's not in alphabetical order. Yeah, your name's not on
You're not there, Vincent?
What?
Yeah. No, what do you think? You weren't here the last 2
You're not on there? Okay.
I'm
I'll keep that in mind.
And?
You're not on the list.
Thanks for letting me know. Anyone else with an issue? John? Oh, well, that was because this is your first meeting, right? Yeah, okay, cool. I'll get you down for sure.
The camera doesn't work on the front.
Okay, whatever. Alright, so let's move on now. If you do see an issue later, just let me know at the end of the meeting. I'll be here. There we go. Okay. So what did we talk about last meeting?
Candles.
Apple. Pizza.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Open closing, along with candles, yep. What else? That was like the main thing, but anything else that you guys can think of? No? Alright, yeah. Candles and the open and lows, those are like the main things we talked about. Those were just the main takeaways. So just take a look at that real quick. We explored blue chips, candles, more candles, indexes. We looked at brokerages as well, and also stock analysis softwares in order to make your purchasing decisions. Alright, so today's agenda, we're going to look at market update. I did look at everyone's like the little post-it note stuff. Oh, I almost did that. Okay, so one of the suggestions actually was to make like a market update every meeting, and I decided to implement that because I think it's a great idea. We're going to look at terms as well, stock exchanges, pyramid schemes, and also closing. And yeah. Okay, so first market update. So we talked about indexes last time, which is why I wanted to really use this, because as you can see, the market's not doing too hot right now, with the indexes of NASDAQ, S&P 500, and Dow Jones all like in the red right now. And pharmaceutical companies are currently taking a lot of losses, like Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna. Can anyone think of why that's happening? So, any ideas, just anything? Yes, Austin?
Vaccine isn't working.
Not necessarily. You're close. You're close. It has something to do with the vaccine. Yeah. Not necessarily.
A lot of people are already vaccinated.
Exactly. There we go. So because the vaccine, it's not really like as big of a. It's not like much. It doesn't have much importance anymore compared to like 2 months ago, because that was when vaccines first came out, and therefore the demand wasn't higher. So now they're currently like going back down and taking losses. So And another thing that I wanted to mention was a global chip shortage. Sorry. And does anyone want to take a shot at why that is an issue? It has something to do with.
Wait, are we talking about potato chips or
No,
computer chips?
like computer chips.
Oh, car
ahead.
manufacturing.
China's economy is like low.
Mhm. And the big thing actually is also because of COVID. So I'm sure you guys know in terms of like computer parts, they will keep being ordered, but because of COVID, a lot of factories were shut down, and because of that, there was a lot of orders being back ordered. And as a result, there's currently a global chip shortage, and some people or some analysis say that it won't be like completely okay until like 2022. So that's a huge deal. And that's just a graph I found from Money CNN. So you can see all the main sectors here, and you can see which sectors are taking the most losses. So we talked about pharmaceutical companies, which was health services essentially, right there, and they're taking some damage there. And you can also see some of the main sectors going up right now, which is pretty interesting. So, and that is the market update. Next term is we're only going to have 2 terms today, so. Oh, this way. Okay. All right. So the first term we're going to talk about is liquidity. So liquidity is essentially how easy it is to sell an investment without the actual price going down. So this is really important because it doesn't matter if you buy a stock and it runs like $2,000, but you can't sell it. You know, there's really no point. So is Google a high liquidity stock or low liquidity stock? And why is this important? Anyone want to take a shot at that? Is it high or low? Think about it.
I think it's high.
I agree, yeah. So Google is considered high liquidity. The reasoning behind it is there's so many shares that you can sell a crazy amount of shares and it will barely impact the stock price at all. And it's also because there's a lot of traders behind Google, and because of that, it's going to be sold and bought, which means that it will be a high liquidity. And it is important because that way, high liquidity generally, it's not like always, but generally it's a pretty good indicator that this company is doing well and it's pretty stable. So yeah, we'll talk about that later as well. And inflation. So I'm sure you guys have heard this term everywhere, and inflation is essentially where money / currency is like the value itself is falling and the purchasing power is also falling. And because of that, prices and goods skyrocket. So currently, are we experiencing low or high inflation? This is a pretty simple one. High, exactly. So what do you guys think these stimulus packages are being created? They're printing money, right?
Yep.
They don't just fall out of the sky, right? So because of this, the money is essentially being printed, and there's less, as a result, the money has less value because there's more of it, right? So that is why we're currently experiencing high inflation. Yeah. And also, is there any country that you guys can think of that has been in hyperinflation, which is essentially like extremely high? Venezuela, exactly, yeah. So why were they in high inflation? What happened?
They printed too much money.
Exactly, but why? Why did they print too much money?
Well, they did.
Who did it?
Me.
You printed all the money in
I had a
Venezuela?
problem with it.
Who did it? Who is the
The government.
exactly, yeah. So the government was the one who printed all this money, and as a result of like really kind of mismanaging, and they also, it's called something called, I think, I'm not necessarily sure what the term is, but essentially they spent more than they could like actually afford to spend. And as a result, they printed more money, and that's what happened in Venezuela. And people literally had to bring out wheelbarrows just to buy like simple items, which is how it got so bad. So, yeah. Next, we're going to talk about some stock exchanges and what they are. So, what is a stock exchange? So, essentially, it is just an exchange where publicly traded companies are bought and sold by traders or stockbrokers. So, some examples of this include the NASDAQ. It is important to understand that the NASDAQ has a different, it's also considered an index, which is called the composite. So, or the New York Stock Exchange. I've heard you guys have heard of all of these terms. So, yeah, those are just the main definition of stock exchanges. So next, why is a stock exchange important? So the exchange essentially manages how buyers and traders kind of get their stocks, right? So they make sure that no like sketchy stuff is happening, and they make sure to ensure that trades are being made in a fair manner. That way, nobody's getting, kind of like scammed or anything. And it also does help with liquidity, which we talked about earlier. So you might be wondering how this is different from a broker/brokerage, which we talked about last meeting. And these two are different as the broker is kind of like a middleman. So you can think of the broker as the person who's talking to the exchange and also communicating with the buyer. And essentially, the broker will talk to the buyer, and they will connect the buyer with the seller. And from there, they will exchange on the stock exchange. So it's pretty interesting. So they're not exactly the same thing, which you really want to kind of understand better. All right, our third is the pyramid scheme. So what is a pyramid scheme? A pyramid scheme is essentially, it's fraud, okay, don't do it. It's a legal system of making money through promoting a scheme that's generally like kind of backed by nothing, and it's recruiting investors by kind of giving them commission. And because of that, they in turn recruit more investors, so on, hence the pyramid shape. So as you can see, we'll talk about this later very soon, how they fail. And as you can see, because it grows exponentially, it will eventually get to a point where you will literally have to recruit more than the world population to even create a profit, which is how it gets, where that becomes an issue. So you can see that on the graph. So this is just a good kind of graphic to understand by Corporate Finance Institute. And essentially there's this head of this pyramid scheme, and it will first hire a couple people to kind of get commission in order to recruit more people to invest in this scheme. And this happens, and this keeps happening. Okay, so let's say I start with, like that graphic shows, I start with 2 people. I give these two people a certain amount of money to, I give them commission in order to recruit more members. And let's say those 2 people each get two more people. And it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. And until it gets to a point where I could essentially bail out, take everyone's money, and just leave, And essentially they're getting scammed because they're investing in a scheme that they think is actually an actual company, which it isn't, and you do have to be careful about that. So, and also new recruits do have to pay an entry fee, which essentially becomes the income for top management. Like if I was the head of a pyramid scheme, me and probably the other 2 people that I first started out with. Everyone else, they would get none of that. Okay, so like I said before, how does it fail? Since the amount of new recruits do grow exponentially, it will get to a point eventually where it's kind of impossible to maintain, because in order to make a profit, you have to recruit more people. And as a result, the founder usually, they just kind of bail out on the scheme and take all of their money, and that's how a pyramid scheme kind of fails, and that is why it is fraud and illegal. So don't do it, but do be careful of those. And as a result, most investors do lose money. In most cases, actually, the 2 initial recruiters that I first recruited, they're not getting any money at all. Like, I'm leaving with all of the cash. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So, all right, so this is a case study. This is a real company called Vema, and essentially it was a company that produced energy/weight loss drinks, and they disguised themselves behind a product, which is really smart, because generally these pyramid schemes are just a scheme, they're an idea. They don't necessarily have a product behind it. However, in Vema's case, it did, and because of this, it made it harder for the FTC to kind of allege them for pyramid scheme, which eventually it did. But it specifically targeted college-age students, and can anyone think why they did it?
Because they're dumb. And they don't think straight.
Sure, yeah. That's pretty much the main reason, yes. So they specifically looked at college-age students because they knew that they probably wanted some extra money, and they kind of go up to them, hey, if you join R and you pay like $200, we will give you commission for every new person that you bring in. And that's pretty like, it's pretty good. It sounds pretty good to like a normal college student that wants to make some money. And the reason why this is wrong is pretty obvious, as it's not good to kind of target certain demographics in order to promote, especially if anything, a pyramid scheme. So that's something I'll elaborate on later as well. They offered a monthly subscription in order to qualify for commission. So it wasn't actually just an entry fee that we looked at like the graphic before. It was actually, you had to pay every month. But this is how they got most of their money. And they were eventually fined around $2 million in 2015 after they were alleged as a pyramid scheme. So going back to like the college age students part, a lot of these pyramid schemes, they have bad morals, I guess you would say, and they would specifically target people that are gullible. And for example, college age students, they might even target the elderly or certain other demographics that might be like I said before, more gullible and able to be manipulated. So that is something you also have to watch out about. And here's on. There we go. Okay, closing. So main takeaways of today's meeting: liquidity is how easy a stock is sold without impacting the stock price. Inflation is the general decrease of the value of money. And stock exchanges are the places where buyers and sellers kind of communicate in order to trade their stocks. And brokers are a middleman, extremely important to understand that, and they're not the same thing. And pyramid schemes operate through commission and generally a recruiting process. So if anyone asks you, hey, if you pay $200 and you recruit more people, it's probably a pyramid scheme, so try to keep away from that. And they fail because recruits grow exponentially and as a result quickly become unstable and not able to create any more money for its recruits. So, and that's pretty much the end of the content for today. I'm gonna do the same thing. Fuad, if you could help me with this, as last week. I'm gonna pass around note cards. I know today's meeting was a little short, but I apologize for that. Here you go. Try to pass it here. Go. You good? Okay, so once again, oh yeah, I'll go down this road. So rate this meeting from 1 to 10. Like I said, I know it's a little short. I apologize for that. But and please write a note on how it was good, how it was bad. I can reflect on that. Give it to Matthew. You have done? Oh, no. Okay. You have to write this thing. Write this down.
I'll buy a pencil.
When's the next meeting? Huh? Next meeting? You pass Okay, yeah. So once again, rate this meeting from 1 to 10, and please write what was good or what was bad, so I can do improve on that. So yeah. And once you're done with that, just put it face down on the table, and you are free to go. And here, let me give it to the next slide here. And make sure not to write your name. So just be completely honest and feel free to criticize. Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you. So once again, the sign-in form is there if you were not able to get that originally. Make sure to check out Instagram, remind our link tree, the Discord is also right here. Put it I don't care.